What's up, what's up? I'm Dr. Omatma, host of Egg Meet Sperm, where we're busting fertility myths, sharing tangible tips for your fertility journey, and bringing you the most knowledgeable guests to support your journey to parenthood. This podcast is for both women and men because getting fertile as fuck is for both partners, don't you think? Remember, just listening to this podcast won't get you pregnant, but following the tips we share just may. Let's get you fertile AF so that you can co-create the family you dream of. And if your partner's not listening to this, make sure to share this episode with your partner. Our guest today, Jennifer Robertson, is a fertility coach and has helped women all over the world transform their mindset to take back control of their life in the midst of infertility. She's also the author of The Injustice of Infertility, a deeply inspiring and raw account of her own 7-year fertility journey. Throughout her own fertility journey, Jen discovered that her old ways of pushing and hard work weren't actually serving her. She is now using the lessons learned along the way to develop programs and support women throughout their journey of motherhood. From the moment they start, they are trying to conceive until they hold their babies in their arms. You can follow Jennifer on the links listed below in our show notes.
My name's Jen. I am a mum of 2 small children. Luca is 6 and Sophie is 5. And they were the result of an epic 7-year battle with infertility that included 9 rounds of IVF. Luca was born via a surrogate. After 5 years of struggles, we had a miscarriage on that journey. And then as soon as we got him in our arms, 2 weeks later, I fell pregnant naturally myself. So that was a bit of a shock. And then 6 weeks or 9 weeks later, I had a miscarriage myself. And then 6 months later, I fell pregnant, and now we have Sophie. So it was 7 years from beginning to end. It included absolutely everything that you can possibly imagine. And that was what led me to what I'm doing right now, which is a fertility coach. So supporting other women who are going through the struggles as well. So I've basically become what I needed on my journey. And what I needed was someone to coach me through it, you know, to push me through and make sure that I was looking after myself despite running as hard as I could. So now I do one-on-one coaching. I also have a pregnancy support group for women who are now pregnant after infertility or loss, because I have also learned that, you know, it just doesn't go away, the trauma and everything that we've been through. And there is an extra part to it as well, so that, you know, women who are now pregnant need the support just as much to get there and get through that journey.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's really great to have you here and nice to hear a little bit about your story.
Yes. And I also have written a book about it as well called The Injustice of Infertility. So yes, I've written a book from beginning to end that includes all of the ups and downs as well.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so Jennifer, you have this incredible story. You're a fertility warrior yourself. You have seen and supported so many women who are on this path. And I feel like one of the biggest things that comes up is around when you've been on the fertility journey for so long, and then you share publicly that you're pregnant, that can actually trigger other people who are also on the fertility journey. So I'm curious, like, how you have seen this happen and how you support them, either to do it in a different way or just like, yeah, talk to me about what that's like in your community and with the people that you've supported.
Yeah, absolutely. And pregnancy announcements for me personally were one of the biggest triggers. And that's the thing that I hear the most from a lot of women, not only that I coach that are in my community as well, it's the pregnancy announcement. And I think the reason why it hurts so much and it really throws us so much is because we have this inner struggle, this inability to separate our emotions and be happy for them and sad for us. And so we automatically link that to I'm a bad person because I can't be happy for my friend who's getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And I think the first step in really not resolving it, but allowing it not to hurt as much is understanding why it hurts so much. And it's not the reason that we go to. It's not because I'm a bad person, because I'm weak, because I'm evil, because of all of these different things. It's because pregnancy announcement is the trigger. And it's the trigger to send us back to our whole fertility journey. So it's not about being in the present moment, but that's the thing that sets us off. And all of a sudden, we do this downward spiral because we are going backward. And no matter what you've been through, whether it is, years of trying to conceive, whether you've had previous losses, whether you've had to go through IVF treatments and all of those different things, the pain comes back in that instant. And sometimes when other people are happy and we're in this constant state of pain, other people's happiness emphasizes our pain. So it's really, really difficult. But I think it's really important to understand that it's not that you're not happy for other people. It's just that you've gone back to your journey. So it really is anger, sadness, frustration for where you're at, and this journey is really, really, really traumatic, and it is this reminder that we're staying still when it feels like the whole world is moving forward and we're stuck in this cycle. I remember the most painful pregnancy announcement, and I still remember it to this day, because when we get a traumatic pregnancy announcement, and there is a difference between one that's not so bad and one that really, really hurts. But I remember mine, and it sticks because it just hurts so much. And it was the reminder that everyone else was moving forward and we weren't. And it was one of my girlfriends rang me, and she was nice enough to give me a heads up because she knew that we had been struggling previously. And she was telling me that she was pregnant. But what hurt was the fact that when my husband and I got married, she didn't even have a boyfriend. So in the time that we had been trying and struggling to conceive, she'd met someone, she was getting married, and now she was pregnant. So that really, really hurt, and it put me on this downward spiral. And of course, by that stage, we were so far deep in our infertility journey that it was really hard to bring myself back up. So those are the reasons why it hurts. And I think that it's really important for us to understand, not to go to that, it's because I'm a bad person or it's because I'm weak or anything like that. It is because this is a really, really tough journey. And the pregnancy announcement is the trigger for the pain that we're already feeling. And it really just brings it back up to the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's often mm, these little triggers that are happening all around us all the time. And then at least from what I've heard, it's often the ones that are really near and dear to our hearts that, it's the hardest to hear. Um, and I feel like what you just shared is really reminiscent of a couple of my clients who have said similar things of like one of them is popping into my head right now. She just found out that her sister-in-law, who she's super close to, is pregnant. And she's like, she's younger than me. And we've been struggling with this for 5 years. And here she is, like, boom, just pregnant. Um, and just the kind of the emotional k- irk, right? Like, I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
else to describe it. It's like, it's such a load that just gets transferred, and you don't know how to respond, right? So what are your tips, or what would you recommend for maybe someone who has just received this news, like what are some things they can do? And then we can flip it and say, when you get pregnant, here's maybe how you can consider delivering the news, um, and
Mm.
maybe help diffuse some of that trigger for someone else in the future.
Yeah, yeah, because we can prepare ourselves for it. And that's what I work through with my clients as well, is making sure that we're prepared. Because when we're taken off guard, that's when it can really, really kick us. And it's interesting that you say that about your client as well, because some do hurt more than others. And, before I get into working through like how we can make the sting a little less intense, I think it's important to understand why some hurt more than others. And first of all, it is how it's announced, which is something that we can take into consideration when we eventually announce our pregnancy as well. And I think the really public announcements, so the ones where you're at a party and it's just announced everywhere and you're completely taken off guard, those are the ones that really, really connect with us and can send us on the spiral. If we see friends announcing their pregnancy in the way that we had pictured that we were going to do it, it can really hurt as well. And I also have, a few clients as well that they've had the pregnancy announcements, but they found out from someone else. They found out secondhand, or their family has kept it from them because they didn't want to hurt them. And in turn, they feel betrayed. So I think it's really important, first of all, that you're able to communicate to the people around you how you would like to find out. And obviously you can't poll everyone and you can't tell everyone exactly how to announce their pregnancy, but I'm talking about your really good friends who might know that you're going through the struggle, or your sister or your brother who the people that are probably going to get pregnant next. Then we can go to them and do them a favor as well, because they're probably scared of, oh, how do I announce my pregnancy to my sister or whatever, who is struggling from fertility struggles. So it lets them off the hook, and being able to communicate to them, look, this is how I would like to find out. And usually the best way to find out a pregnancy is via a text message, so that you don't have to respond immediately, so that you can take the time, you can do whatever you've got to do, go for a run, hit the punching bag, whatever, before you have to respond. You don't have to respond immediately. And it takes the sting out of it. It takes the expectation of how I'm supposed to react in the moment away from it. It also means that it's not going to be in a public place. And it also means that you're not going to find out secondhand as well. So I think that little bit of extra preparation of telling people how you would like to find out and asking them to give you a little bit of space as well. I think that we get into this emotional frenzy of, I need to respond straight away, like I need to. And when we do respond, we betray ourselves, because we say things like, I'm so happy for you. And really, we're not. And we're not because we're a bad person, but because it's really hard to see other people get what we have been striving for the most in the world for so long. So there are ways that we can structure our responses as well. And those are around, saying congratulations, full stop, and moving away from it. We don't need to keep on going on and on about it. You are able to say congratulations and move on with the conversation. Or you can say some things like, how exciting for you, or divert the attention off yourself and ask them a question.
Yeah.
When are you due? And
Yeah.
and that way it kind of moves the conversation. But a lot of the time on this journey, we betray ourselves because we're saying things that we don't really mean and feel, and we're really faking it. And the same when people say, how are you? And you're like, I'm fine. Meanwhile, you're dying inside,
Right.
so that's really, really tough. So, and there are certain questions and paths that we can avoid as well. Instead of saying, how are you feeling? And then opening yourself up to them saying, oh, I feel like crap and I'm morning sickness and everything like that, which is another trigger as well, because we don't want to hear people complaining about the pregnancy symptoms while we're in this season that we're in right now. So making sure that you guide the conversation to avoid any kind of triggering things as well. But if you can have a few little things that you can roll off the top of your tongue as soon as a pregnancy is announced, that doesn't betray yourself, that doesn't lead the conversation somewhere that you don't want it to be, that can be really helpful as well. For me, preparation is something that helps reduce anxiety and allows you to go into functions and events without having that fear of what am I going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I love this. I love this what you said in terms of like not betraying ourselves, right? Like we don't need to feel pressured to say I'm so happy for you and to have this like bubbly energy around it. We can genuinely feel like great, congratulations. And and also be okay with like, hey, this is I need to take care of me for a little while and then I can come back and really be happy for you. But I need to be present with myself for a bit first. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And so this, I imagine that this is like along the same lines. Um, how do you coach women in terms of going to baby showers? Like this is a question that keeps coming up. Like, oh my God, why would they invite me? Like, don't they know I've been struggling for so long and they expect me to go to this baby shower? Or like the
Yes.
sister-in-law that's expecting you to throw the baby shower? Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So what's your suggestion in that realm?
Yeah, look, I will give you the advice that I gave my client the other day, because she's in the same situation. She has to go to a baby shower. So first of all, my first piece of advice for anyone who's been invited to a baby shower is you don't have to go. We feel this pressure that we have to go regardless of who it is, and like it's this guilt that if we don't go, then we're the worst person in the world. And the truth is that we are going through a really, really tough season, and you don't have to go if it's going to cause you intense pain. So that's the first thing. I want to give every woman permission not to go to the baby shower. Now, if of course it's your sister or someone like that that you're really, really obligated, like you have to go to, then there are a few things that you can do in preparation for it. And this is for the pregnancy announcements as well. Our ability to go through and live through all of these triggers and this whole journey is really contingent upon what the work that we're doing for ourselves, and it is making sure that your energy level is up, so that making sure that you're getting enough sleep, because our ability to receive any kind of bad news or go move through anything, if we're tired, it's not great. So making sure that we're getting enough sleep, making sure that we're looking after ourselves in terms of our diet, using our food to give us energy, making sure that we have an outlet to vent. A lot of the time, and from personal experience on my journey, I pushed it all down. I pushed all of the emotions down, and I kept on saying to myself, I will deal with it when this is all over. I didn't realize that I was going to be on this journey for 7 years, and for 7 years I was pushing it down and pushing it down. And so what would happen then is when a girlfriend would announce a pregnancy, my emotions and my reactions were out of this world. I was angry all of the time, and it's because I wasn't processing it. So whether it's through journaling, whether it's through speaking with a therapist or a coach or a support group or a girlfriend or someone who understands it, that's what's really important. I think, also looking after yourself, going for walks in nature. And I know it sounds like such a small thing, like how is that going to help? But it really does help. Doing the things that give us joy, whether it's going to the movies, binge watching TV, whether it's reading a book, going for a walk on the beach, those are the things that really, really energize us. So that's exactly what I told my client. Make sure that you are ready for this baby shower. You are firing on all cylinders. You've been looking after yourself for the previous week. That another thing also is when we go to these events, limiting alcohol intake. I don't know about you, but my go-to, my way of numbing on my fertility journey was alcohol. That's what I used. So if I was going to a baby shower, I'd be headed for the bar, and that's where I would stay. But what happens is when we drink the alcohol, it brings all of the, well, for me, it brings the emotions up. So they're a lot rawer, and we aren't able to hold in our emotions as much. So my suggestion is, I know that you're going to want to probably head to the bar when you get there, but limiting your alcohol intake, making sure that you've got a wingman. If there's a girlfriend there that you think may be able to support you through it, to guide you through the conversations, because when you're at a baby shower, all of the conversations are going to be about babies. Guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed, because that's why you're there. So you're all searching for a commonality. So once again, having preparation for those questions. Do you have children? Yeah, we've got 3 puppies, and move on. So just making sure that you have a response for the questions that you are absolutely going to get asked, and having it out. My client, we worked out a complete strategy, and her strategy was, if I get asked this, or this question, here's my response, and here's my out. Oh, I have to look after the mimosa bar. Oh, I have to make sure that there's some sandwiches. So being able to answer the question, and then before they dig any deeper, making an exit. So there's so many things that you can do to energize yourself, make sure that you're battle ready, because that's kind of what it feels like when you're walking into a baby shower. Making sure that you have the responses ready, making sure that you have an exit strategy, and limiting your alcohol intake. So those are just a few things that you can do if you have to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Those are all really great tips. I feel like it really is important to feel prepared. And then I like that you took the pressure off, you know? I tell women this all the time. I'm like, "Well, do you feel like you have to go?"
Mhm.
And they're like, "No, but I want to go." Like, "Okay, then go, but make sure that you're only doing what you want to do, not what you think you have to do." And
Yes.
if it's someone that's super close to you, they're more likely than not going to understand that you can't be there for them. And they're probably better, they're like, that's fine. Like, it's probably okay and better for them if you aren't there if you don't want to be there, right? Like, if
Mhm.
you don't feel like you're up to it, you don't feel like you're in the right space for it, just bow out. It's
Yeah. And I
okay.
think
It's
it's important as well to not feel like we have to explain overly why we can't. Absolutely give them an idea of it's causing me pain. But I think we go into this extension from that of trying to convince other people, of why it is that this hurts so much. And we waste so much energy trying to explain to people why this hurts.
yeah.
And unless you've been through it, it is really hard to understand why it hurts. So we waste so much time and energy trying to make people understand. And I think what we need to do is we need to focus our energy on us being okay with the fact that we're not okay, and being able to say that, and for us being comfortable with the fact that this is a really tough season, and yes, other people's happiness may cause us pain, but that's not because that we're a bad person. So I think it's understanding that this is completely normal, and you're not crazy, and you're not weak for feeling and thinking all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Thank you so much. I think those are amazing tips for not only hearing announcements, going to baby showers. Let's flip the script a little bit. So, what does it look like when you have struggled for so long and you're finally pregnant and you know that your community, especially a lot what I see on social media is like we get into these online communities that are also about infertility because that's where we are. And then all of a sudden you're pregnant and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I don't want to trigger anybody else. So then you're like nervous to share your news and your joy. And like the question that I often am asking is like, could we support the building of a community where we can share those things without feeling like, well, you're not a part of us anymore. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yes.
And like I I've been doing this work for 10 years. I had a personal journey that wasn't necessarily infertility related. It started pre-fertility. Um, it was a question of like, do I want to be in this marriage? And it brought up like all of this stuff around, oh my God, if I don't want to have a kid with this person, I may never have children. Like, I'm really
Yeah.
looking at that in my face. So that's where it started for me, and that's how I got so passionate about this. But I remember like being, supporting all of these clients 7 years after that decision. I finally found a partner, met someone, married them, got pregnant, and I remember like feeling I didn't tell my patients for like 5 months, you know, and they were like,
Yes.
"What? You're pregnant? Like we want to be happy for you." We are
Yes.
genuinely happy for you. And it's like a testament that what we're doing works because you've done it and we feel good and excited about that. So I was really like thrown aback by like how responsive and supportive all of my clients were with me.
Yeah.
Um, and still to this day, like so many of them oh, got pregnant around the same time. So we have kids around the same time. And they're like, "Oh, how's your son?" And like we'll check in every now and then, and just like feel that sisterhood. Um,
Mm.
and I want that so much for our clients too. Like I want to be supporting this culture of, hey, let's share our celebrations and be excited and inspired by, like, hey, if someone else got pregnant and they're in this tribe with you, that means you also are on this path and it gives you hope and you can like feed off of that
Mm.
energy in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Sorry,
and I
went
love
on
the
super
fact that
long.
no, I love the fact that you're, and we need to be compassionate for those people around us. And sometimes our story gives other people hope. I wrote a book called The Injustice of Infertility, and that's my story, and it has a beautiful ending. And I have messages from women every single day saying, "You've given me hope." And that's what we want it to have. But it doesn't always inspire hope. I think it depends on where you're at in your journey and where you're at in your emotional energy for that period of time as well, depending on, I don't know about you, but I can read something one day and it'll have invoke one emotion, but the next day it'll do something else. So it really depends on where we're at. And I think it's just really important that you allow people to unfollow you. And pregnancy after loss and infertility, it's a whole new period. And that's why I created a few months ago your pregnancy haven, because I was having a lot of my clients that were getting pregnant and there was nowhere for them to go. If they were going through fertility specialists, their IVF clinic broke up with them and they'd just be sent to a normal doctor. And then they're out in the wilderness and they no longer fit inside the infertility community because they know how much it really, really triggers, because they know how it felt. And yet they don't fit in the parenting groups or the pre-parenting groups because they can't embrace it. So that period is kind of like you're floating and you don't really belong anywhere. And that's why I created this group, so that, you know, you know that you're not alone and you can cheer each other on in the milestones. And You can compare your anxiety because that's what it is. I always thought that when I got pregnant, it would erase absolutely everything that had happened to me, that it was the cure for my infertility and it would just be roses. But what happened was when I actually got pregnant, the anxiety went up and I wasn't able to enjoy it. And I felt guilty because I was like, there are people who would kill to be in my position, and yet I can't get excited. I never threw a baby shower. I never announced my pregnancy, and I lived my pregnancy in this fear state, not wanting to trigger people. So, one of the topics that we spoke about in the group the other day was, how do you announce your pregnancy? When do you announce your pregnancy? And the thing that I said to them was, well, you need to do it when you're feeling comfortable. And if you don't ever feel comfortable, it's okay. You don't have to make that big formal announcement on Facebook and Instagram with the cute little pictures and things like that if you don't feel comfortable, or you're able to announce it in a way that is sensitive to the needs of others. And I think it's just drawing on what is it that you needed when you were struggling and bring that to your announcement. And there are so many different things that you can do, but I think it does change us. When we go through such a battle, it really does change the rest of our path. And I think it doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think it really makes us more compassionate and gives us a whole different perspective on things.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the intense anxiety that I had, and I didn't necessarily go through infertility. I was just like the older mom, right? I got pregnant much later in life, and the OBGYN that was like, "Oh, geriatric pregnancy." And I was like,
Oh, I hate
"What?"
that word.
Like, "Oh my God." Um, and then like just being around all of my clients every single day who've had, like, some of them have had multiple losses, and like kind of I had embodied it in some way because as soon as I got pregnant, it was like crazy anxiety of miscarriage. Every night I'd be like nightmares about a miscarriage. And I couldn't explain it outside of the fact that I just have been around it for so long that I expected something to go wrong.
Yeah, and
And
when we're in the infertility community, it's all about inclusivity. So, I'm 1 in 8, I'm 1 in 4, 1 in 4 pregnancies, and that's the messages in those communities because it wants you to feel like you're not alone, that it's not just you. But what happens is when you do get pregnant, you've still got that 1 in 4 in your mind, and we need to switch that mindset around
yeah,
to 3 and 4. All of a sudden, from it happens to absolutely everyone and I'm not alone, we need to switch it to there is more of a chance that this is going to work out well. And the 3 and 4 result in a happy, healthy baby. So it's really difficult to switch that mindset from the lack, into the this is going to work. I'm going to open my heart to it. But yeah, it is a really big struggle because, and I say to a lot of the ladies inside, your pregnancy haven, it's like, look at who you're following now, because you really have to switch it up and follow the ones who have had the success from the pregnancies rather than the ones who made you feel comfortable when you're inside, your infertility journey. Now
yeah,
it's all about fertility and getting to the end. Who are those people that are going to inspire you now?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's so, so, so important. Um, I would love to kind of shift. I know you have an amazing gift for our listeners. Would you like to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things that we search for on this journey, and I did as well, was peace. And I ask a lot of my clients, what is the one thing that you want to feel right now? And they're like, I just want to feel peace from no more struggling, to feel a little bit like myself again, to stop being so consumed by fertility. So I did a video, it's completely free. It's a 1-hour video with a whole heap of tips and lessons that I learned on my 7-year battle, things that you can do for free, small tweaks that you can implement that will allow you to feel a little bit of peace while you're still on this journey. So that's available, and I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes as well. But anyone who is craving that peace, in an hour, you can implement some things that will allow you to get to that place.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so lovely. Thank you so much for your generous gift and for the amazing work that you're doing in the world. I just feel like there is this need for to have a pregnancy haven. I'm so excited by that name and just resonates so deeply. So I'm grateful for all the amazing things that you're doing in the world, and we really love supporting your work, and thank you for all of the amazing women that you're supporting through their pregnancies.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Was that an amazing episode or what? Make sure to check our show notes so that you can link up with our guests. And if you're not a part of our secret Fertile AF community, you can join for free via the link in our show notes. Last but not least, have you showed us some love lately? It would mean the world to us if you could share and review our podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Egg Meets Sperm. Peace.